Hello everybody, this is Manuets and welcome to another Eternal Brews video series. So with the recent balance changes, we lost one of the cornerstones of the traditional Argenport midrange deck that was running rampant in the format before, and now it's time to look for alternatives, what to do with the Argenport Alliance, and specifically with our cow overlord Tavrod, aside from the obvious armory. So I have been experimenting with this a bit basically since the adventure came out. So I figured it's time to review it a bit and also finally share it with you people, because before it seemed kind of like a worse alternative than the straight up Betholo based midrange deck, simply because Betholo is so powerful and has the potential for a bunch of easy free wins, which is now not good enough to play anymore in my opinion, especially not in this type of deck and this form. So let's dive in and take a look at this deck. This is basically trying to maximize Tavrod and Relentless Gorehorn and just be a proactive mid-range deck built around the Minotaur tribe, one of the most supported tribes in the game so far. And we all know, aside from Strangers, which is the biggest tribe, that people in general, a lot of people love tribal stuff and tribal synergies, so why not take a look at one of the more competitive tribes aside from Strangers. Okay, so in terms of units, we have 4 Auric Bully, 4 Minotaur Grunt, 4 Auric Interrogator, 4 Copperhall Bailiff, 4 Relentless Gorehorn, and 4 Tavrod. So I decided to not go too low to the ground with like 1-drops, and the 1-drops are all too underpowered to play in a not super aggressive deck, so I decided against them. And these are two pretty robust 2-drops. So basically, Auric Bully can be really powerful, especially Auric Bully into Bloodletter, or Auric Bully with a Jack's Knife makes for what is effectively a 2-power 4/3 plus the weapon stats, which is really powerful, and it's also a Minotaur, so it also can be found with Tavrod's ability, or simply become a 6/3 with Gorehorn, as long as it already has a weapon and basically is the 4/3 that I talked about. Then we have Minotaur Grunt. This one is something that I initially dismissed, but it turned out to be actually quite good. First of all, we all know Warcry on early drops can be very powerful and really good, especially in a deck with a lot of units and weapons, so the deck is chock full of Warcry targets. And the 3 health makes it a pretty good blocker against other aggressive decks, makes it a reasonable attacker into a lot of other early drops for Warcry triggers, and with Relentless Gorehorn it becomes a 3/3, making it a pretty good 2-drop basically, and it also can be found by Tavrod or made into more of a threat with the weapons. Just turned out to work really well for the deck on offense and defense. The Warcry does enough on offense and the Minotaur synergies, and the 3 health does enough on defense. Auric Interrogator, arguably one of the most powerful cards from the Tale of Horus Trevor. It's definitely utilized much better here than it would have been in the other Argenport deck. I currently run 6 weapons to buff it, plus the Relentless Gorehorn, so you can go Interrogator into Gorehorn to turn on the Interrogator. You have Tavrod to turn it on, you have the Emerald Monuments to turn it on, and you also have the Warcry from Minotaur Grunt and Copperhall Bailiff to randomly turn it on, and of course its best friend Dark Return to turn it on, or to recur it multiple times to try and take over games. Bailiff, another card that does a decent job on offense with only mediocre threat stats, but Warcry helping a lot to generate virtual pressure against slower decks and against faster decks. Of course, the -1 attack buff and the fact that it also has 3 health makes it a really good defensive unit as well. And yeah, then we have Relentless Gorehorn to turn all these somewhat conservative statted early units into overstated threats basically, and the Revenge is really nice card advantage, also gets us a potential second buff, and has nice synergy with Dark Return, because Dark Returning this once it already has Destiny from the Revenge means we just get to Dark Return it for free basically and turn Dark Return into a Relentless Gorehorn with +1/+1 and drawing a card, which is also very powerful. And I mean, Tavrod doesn't really need much mention. He's just the reason to try and make this happen, and it's a powerful beast. And there's obviously also some nice synergies between the Revenge of Gorehorn and Tavrod. Okay, so as I said, the other support cards are like 2 Jack's Knife for the bullies and the interrogators especially, or to some extent also for Grunt, like the early units to make them better at what they want to do. 4 Bloodletter, just the best weapon to put in an Auric bully on turn 3 basically, and a nice way to get a leg up in a race from the 1-turn lifesteal, especially if it got buffed by Warcry or by a Tavrod trigger. And then we have 4 Auric Runehammer, very good with 8 Warcry units, and Tavrod's buff to turn Tavrod's ability into somewhat more scary of a thing to happen. And yeah, the card can easily kill people, can kill a lot of units, usually provides a 2-for-1. It's just a very powerful and flexible card dealing with a lot of things. And then we have 3 Emerald Monument as additional potential weapons for Bully and Interrogator, and as hits for the weapon part of Tavrod, while also helping us to not flood or get screwed at the same time, because we want enough power to reliably hit our 4 and 5 drops, because the deck is very dependent on them, but we also want to be able to not draw too much past that, and having monuments helps with both, which is great, especially if the monument has enough synergy with the deck. Then we have for Vara's favor as additional power and interaction, that also helps us with drawing excess power basically. And as a removal suit I chose 3 Vanquish and 3 Slay at the moment. It's debatable whether you might want to run like 2 Vanquish and 4 Slay. I split them 3 and 3 because most of the things that you really care about killing you can Vanquish, and then only costing 2 is a pretty big upside. Also sometimes you just gotta be on the draw against an aggro deck. They have like this 4 power Champion of Fury for example, and you can just Vanquish it on turn 2 when you don't have a 2-drop, while your Slay would just mean you take another hit and then have to Slay the next turn instead of playing a unit, for example. And also Runehammer deals with a lot of the smaller units that Vanquish can't. So a lot of the time Slay, as I said many times, is just a more expensive Vanquish. So for the sake of the curve and the efficiency of the deck, I kinda like the 3-3 split a lot better, because the deck has a lot more 3-cost cards already than 2-cost cards. So having a few more cheaper cards both plays better early on and also in the mid game, allowing you more often to do 2 things a turn rather than just 1, and catching back up on tempo that you might have lost early on. And yeah, then we have 27 power plus 4 favor as the power base. The power base is geared more heavily towards justice for obvious reasons, because we have 4 Bailiff with double justice and 4 Hammer with double justice, and Tavrod is double justice and double shadow, but we only have 1 double Shadow unit, which is Interrogator, and also all our turn 2 plays require Justice, so Justice is pretty important. And we still have like 10 Justice basically, and 9 Shadow plus 12 duels, so it's still pretty balanced, just like slightly leaning towards Justice. And yeah, the deck is just pretty straightforward, bunch of beefy guys, has a lot of like surprisingly much staying power between Interrogator, Tavrod, and Gorehorn especially, and Runehammer, generating a lot of card advantage and power, and Dark Return being backup copies of these definitely helps as well. And yeah, deck felt surprisingly good and surprisingly powerful when I played with it. It definitely feels like there's something to it and it has potential. It might not be the best deck or as strong and well positioned in the format as the old Argenport midrange was, but it might be the new best, like Tavrod based mono Argenport deck, at least the best that I could think of or come up with so far. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. If you have other ideas what to do with Argenport going forward and with Tavrod, this is what I liked the most. I tried a couple of other Minotaurs, like for example I tried Auric Vigilante. Vigilante just felt a little too underpowered and inefficient, which is why I gave Minotaur Grunt a try after I saw some other people trying it, because I was initially skeptical, and Grunt felt a lot better than Auric Vigilante, for example. And yeah, that's it for the deck for now. As usual, gonna hop into some games, show it in action to see how we're doing and how the deck plays out. And stay tuned for the first half of the games coming up in a moment. Thanks for watching.